Hello and welcome to another episode of FPL Faff, a review of Game Week 30 and looking ahead to Game Week 31. I'm going to try and keep this short and sweet, but we'll see how it goes. So, to start off with, let's look at how my team got on in Game Week 30. So, um, all in all, fairly pleased. I can't really complain with how my team got on. 61 points, sort of an average for some of the top players was sort of around the 59 mark. I've got a very small green arrow, 598,000th in the world I'm now up to. And some of the highlights really were Henry's assist getting fouled for a penalty. Um, Rashford not captaining him, to be honest, because a lot of people did. And then bringing in Haaland for the captain, 24 points. Kane, as much as it pains me for him to mug off Brighton when we deserve to get a result, his 9 fancy points provided some consolation. But I think I'd have rathered the Brighton outcome, to be honest, as a Brighton fan. And then Watkins of 7. The biggest pain was the bench. Look at this bench: 4 points Everson, 6 Bowen, 6 Zuma, and 8 Dunk. Again, the one game I bench the sort of potential goal scoring centre back. I had Gabriel a few weeks ago. This week, Dunk. It's just the way it goes, isn't it? You play them week in, week out. They don't get their goal. And when they finally score their header from a corner, it's the week you bench them. But it is what it is. I wasn't too mad because I was always going to bench these guys. It's just typical that they all had to smash it. But I still came out of a good score, still came out of a green arrow. Happy days. Now, moving on, quick bit of news. I think most of you would have heard this if you follow fantasy football. Rashford has been declared as injured for what Ten Hag has described as a few games, or maybe I think it's the Man United website. Either way, he's been declared out for a few games, which could mean a variety of things. If it's literally a few games, 3 games, he's only going to miss, the next kind of set of games, which means that come game week 34 for his double, he should be back. But to be honest, it's guesswork at this stage. I think if you can afford to bench him for a couple of weeks, might be worth benching him because you're going to want him back. If your team, could do with transferring him out for someone to make your team look a lot better for the next a few weeks, I'd just probably get the transfer done. You can always bring him back later. He holds a valuable midfield slot for a player that, could get you points over the weeks when he's out. So that's what I'm personally doing. I'll show you my transfer that I've made in a minute. But yeah, probably worth if you can keep hold of him and you've got a really strong team to bench him, fine. But otherwise, if there's a player to bring in that you've got your eye on, I'd go for it. Midfield slots this year are kind of where all the points are in fantasy football. So if you've got someone in mind, bring him in. We'll look at what my team looks like in a sec. Let's look at the fixtures for this game week. So players to target, sort of from my mind, having a look at these fixtures, these first set of 3. I mean, I think if you've got Brighton midfielders, you're thinking away to Chelsea on paper looks difficult. I think you play them and you're quite confident that we're going to score a goal or two with the way that we've been attacking this season. So I don't think you have to worry about playing Brighton midfielders. Villa Newcastle's interesting because Villa are on good form. Newcastle have been solid defensively, but you probably expect Villa to score with Watkins' form, etc. So if you've got 2 Newcastle defenders, maybe play one of them, i.e. Trippier. Maybe don't play both this week if you can afford not to. I think Everton, Fulham, no one's really caring about. With Chelsea, I mean, they're just all over the place, really, aren't they? Defensively, do you really trust a Chilwell or whoever to get a clean sheet against us? Like I said, I'd expect us to score. So you probably play them for the attacking returns, but you kind of want more attacking minded players, I think, for that fixture for Chelsea Brighton if you have them, i.e. Felix Havertz or an attacking wing back. Otherwise, I wouldn't be too confident if you're getting a clean sheet. Down Southampton Palace, after Palace just smashed Leeds. Nice differential this week. Could be Elise Eze if you wanted to take a punt on one of them. But again, they're a midfield player. There's so many good midfielders this year. Do you really want to bring in one of those for your midfield slots? If you need a differential, then you could go for it. They're cheap as well. But maybe there's better options. Heung-min Son at home to Bournemouth is a nice differential, but again, I don't know where you're finding the cash for that. Harry Kane, I think a lot of people have, who's potentially a captaincy shout this week. And it's kind of like my argument last week. He's probably the safe captaincy choice this week, where you know he's going to play 90 minutes against a side on paper that's not very good. The Haaland versus Leicester decision, I think he should play. They've had a good turnaround from Champions League, but it's never guaranteed, is it? Alvarez came on for a sneaky 30 minutes in the Champions League for De Bruyne in the week. And I was looking at it thinking, is that just to give him a bit of rhythm for the weekend? You know, there's a chance that Haaland gets a resting and Alvarez comes in and plays the game. And you'd expect City to beat Leicester with or without Haaland. So I'm sure Pep could afford to do it. But to make sure of the result, I'm expecting Haaland to start. And then maybe, you know, he comes off after 60 minutes for Alvarez like usual or someone else. So anyway, I think Haaland, you'd be brave to not captain Haaland this week is what I'm trying to say, with a fixture against Leicester who are awful defensively. But there is a chance he's benched. I think you've got to be prepared to accept that if it happened. Wolves, Brentford, no really standouts there, I don't think. I'm happy playing sort of a probably Brentford defender against Wolves, who are never that attacking. If you've got Tony, you know, you'd fancy you'd have a chance of scoring. So I think you've got no problem in playing the players against Wolves this week. I doubt you have any Wolves players, but I wouldn't expect massive returns for Brentford in that fixture. And then West Ham, Arsenal. Yeah, West Ham have been all over the place, haven't they? I don't really know what to say. They could turn up and keep Arsenal out on a clean sheet. They could get smashed 5-1 like they did against Newcastle. I think if you've got Arsenal players, you play them, obviously. Not many of us have West Ham players. So I think you play your Arsenal players. I think you have a decent chance of a clean sheet and attacking returns in that game. So you go for them. United, Forest are good at home, but again, if you have like a Bruno Fernandes or a Man United defender or something, you play them and you have a good chance of getting something. Even though Forest have been good at home, it's still Forest. One player I didn't mention for City, Jack Grealish, great form at the moment. He seems pretty nailed. He's the most obvious player that people are switching in for the injured Rashford. And as a little sneak preview, he's the guy that I have brought in for Rashford this game week. So yeah, I think he is a good shout. But again, there's always a chance he gets benched with City. But I think he's been playing pretty much every game, so I think you've got a high chance he starts because they don't really have anyone else to play on the left wing with Foden now. So I think Grealish is fairly sound. If you wanted to just do a straight swap for Rashford, they're basically the same price. Get it done if that's what you're feeling. I think Rashford's price is going to drop again before the deadline. That might affect if you can afford them or not. And then down to the final fixture. Sorry, Leeds, Liverpool. This is the fixture I'm sort of worried about actually. Liverpool have been finding form lately attackingly. I don't have any Liverpool assets. Salah, I'm worried is going to murder me. You'd expect Leeds to score, so clean sheet wise, maybe I'm not as worried. But when it comes to the likes of Salah, he could have a killing this week. If you wanted to go really differential, you could take a punt on a Gakpo, a Jota, a Nunes, but you never really know if they're definitely going to start. So if you can afford Salah and you want to bring him in, I think he's a great shout. He plays Forest next week if you're not playing a free hit. He then doubles in 34 and a nice double. Like if I could get him in this week, I'd do it, but it's going to take me too many hits to do it. So I think Salah is a great shout if you can get him in against Leeds if you haven't got him already. Other than that, yeah, like I said, you could take a punt on another one of the attackers if you're prepared to get them benched. And then Trent and Robertson are always going to have a bit of attacking threat with their clean sheet potential. So if you wanted to bring a defender, you've only got a slot to kind of provide for one of them. I still think it's not a bad shout to bring in this week. Just I'll expect Leeds to score, but again, like Robbo, Trent, they can always get attacking returns as well, can't they? So yeah, there's some kind of thoughts really for players to look at this week. I think like City, you could try a Mahrez differential if you wanted to, for example. But again, you never know who's really going to play, who's going to get benched in those sort of games. For City, it's always a lottery. Haaland and Ederson feel like the only two that guarantees play. And like I said, recently Grealish, Rodri, but you're not going to put in Rodri. So that's kind of a thought of the fixtures. In terms of my team, like I said, I've brought in Grealish for Rashford. I did it early before I got priced out. Ederson and goal, I'm happy with. Trippier, you're always happy with. Like I said, a Brentford defender against Wolves, I'm happy enough with. Hunk against Chelsea. Hopefully, he can get me some points this week. Now I'm actually bravely starting him away to Chelsea. I mean, Chelsea, I think, haven't scored for 4 games in a row or something. So he's not got a bad chance for cleaner, really, with that record. But I know we play quite open, expansive football. So I'm not expecting one, but I think there's a chance. So hence why I'm playing him, as opposed to the double Newcastle defence. Spread my sort of chances a bit more this week, which, yeah, bit me in the bum last week for not doing. And then, yeah, Grealish, Bowen, Saka, Matoma, very happy with them. And then Haaland, captain against Leicester. Like I said, I'm not brave enough to go against that. Then vice captain on Kane against Bournemouth, and then Watkins against Newcastle on form. Can he keep the streak going? I'm not too worried about who's on my bench there. So, yeah, happy enough with this side going into the game week. Like I said, I'd have loved a Salah in here, but it's just I would have had to have taken too many hits to restructure my side. And my main route to Salah is taking out Kane, but I don't want to take him out when he's home to Bournemouth. So I think a lot of people are sort of sticking with Kane this week and then maybe reassessing in game week 32 and beyond when he starts to run into a few more difficult fixtures. So yeah, that's kind of how my team's looking. Hopeful for a green arrow this week, but again, it's like who are my differentials? And I think going forward, if I'm going to try and chase a top 100k finish, you're going to need to take some punt on some differentials. I very nearly did a sort of Gakpo in and Mahrez in this week, but I just don't trust them enough. And in fact, with Grealish, very nearly last week, I nearly plugged Grealish, but I didn't. I forgot to. So yeah, as he's proving the last couple of games, look, the man's on form. 12 points, 2 weeks running. Home to Leicester is about as good as it gets as a fixture. I think, yeah, if you want a straight swap for Rashford, you can get Grealish and be quite happy with him this week. And hopefully he continues his streak, continues the returns, and gets you some points. So I think I'm going to leave it there. There's some thoughts for this game week. Hope you have a good game week yourselves. And yeah, I look forward to catching you guys on the next one. Bye for now.